if I could just see God's people rise up, I can be the footnote of footnotes, I don't care. Because I know how it changed me more than anything. Like, praying for someone who gets healed, that changes their life. It can, again. But it's changed me more than anyone I've prayed for, in some ways, I feel. Because when the Spirit of God moves through you in a moment like that, and you become the hands and feet of Christ, and you see the Bible become alive in your life, that changes you forever. It changes you. It takes away a lot of pride even. It takes away that Pharisaic spirit. That was the issue of the Pharisees. They were rabbis without the Holy Spirit. So I just want to see God's people rise up. And I believe that that is his call right now. He says, in the last days, I'll pour out my Spirit. Okay, are we in the last days? Because I think right now, you know, on this immediate time we're speaking right now, this is as last days as it's ever been. I want to see Christ's heart just come to his people.
It seems like through man's timeline, there's different pulses or high points of the Spirit moving, or at least recorded. You know, we see Samson filled with the Spirit doing all this awesome things, or other prophets, and then we see Yeshua's ministry and Acts, the book of Acts. They're doing crazy stuff. And then, you know, even between then and now, there was the Dark Ages. And so what is this? Is there moves of the Spirit on the timeline of man, pulses of power, if you will? How do we explain this? What do you think?
I'll just tell you what I think. Look, yeah, absolutely. There are, if you look historically, but throughout the biblical narrative, you see that there are certain prophets who are used powerfully by the Holy Spirit. God chooses to speak to them or deliver messages or whatever. And then something happens, like with Nineveh, you know. But, you know, then you get to Moses. Moses, you know, they're in the wilderness journey. And it's the moment where the elders are filled with this Holy Spirit. And you have these elders that keeps prophesying, and they come to Moses and they say, Moses, like, we need to stop them, like, you know, and Moses says, are you jealous for my sake? I would let all of God's people be prophets. Which is like, so Moses, as a prophet, I believe he was filled by the Spirit there, right? And he is saying, he's prophesying about something that's coming. He says in his day, I don't see this right now. There's some people who, throughout biblical history, like, have been filled by the Spirit in a greater measure, if you will. And yet Moses says there's something missing. All of God's people, if all of them could be prophets. And then we see Acts 2. The prophet Joel is quoted by Peter. And Peter says, in the last days, what is happening right here is the fulfillment of this. In the last days, God says, I will pour out my Spirit upon all flesh. Your sons and your daughters will prophesy. Moses' statement has just occurred. They will prophesy. Sons and daughters, like ordinary people, will prophesy. They will dream dreams, have visions, old men, young, everyone. And suddenly now, everything is different. And this is why Christ came to die. One part of why he came to die is for us all, ordinary people, to be able to be filled by the Spirit. So, yes, there were times, and I believe still there are seasons and times, God decides, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. He does things. Absolutely. Let his will be done. In times and in places. But we live in the age of Shavuot. We live in the age where we have, the Feast of Shavuot has been fulfilled in that the Spirit was poured out. And now we're waiting for trumpets. We're waiting for his second coming. And why did Yeshua leave? He said, it's good that I'm leaving you, so that the Spirit can come, so that Shavuot can come to you, be fulfilled in you, so that you can become my temple, so that you can prepare the earth for when I return, so that I have a bride to come back to.
So if we're his followers and we are part of his body, we need to be working. We need to be moving. We need to be helping wake up the lost sheep of the house of Israel, do the Great Commission, live as his, like, hands and feet, and show him to people so that he'll come back, I guess.
Yeah.
I guess that wasn't a...
It's to bring a harvest to him.
So you're right. We're waiting for trumpets, and we are in the age of Shavuot, of Pentecost, of the outpouring of the Holy Spirit. All Satan can do is lie to us and keep us barred from moving and operating in this. And so it seems like what you guys are trying to do is wake people up to the fact that, hey, there is power here. Wake up, have faith, move. Is that right?
Yes, this is what Moses longed for. Like, this is what the prophets who've all come before us, those great men of God, they all longed for this. So how can we not grab a hold of this? Absolutely.
All right. Maybe one more about, are there practical steps that individuals, or this is another Katie one, individuals or congregations can take to be more sensitive to the Holy Spirit so we are operating in both spirit and truth? Like, we talked about this a little already, but...
Yeah. The biggest, I'll start from the top down, because what I have noticed is that, we have equipped individuals and then they go back to their fellowships, and sometimes when the fellowship doesn't have an atmosphere that is welcoming to the Holy Spirit, then that individual is going to struggle a lot, because they need to then move outside of their fellowship in order to move in their gift. Which, yeah, that can be done to an extent, but that's not God's design. The fellowship is supposed to be a place of equipping, encouraging, accountability, order, all this stuff. So when you don't, we think that, oh, we don't want that weird Holy Spirit stuff. But what we're actually doing is we're creating an atmosphere where there isn't accountability for those things, because we don't even allow them at all. So people who want to walk in them biblically, they need to go outside of any accountability that could have been possible, because you don't provide an atmosphere for them to move in. So all I'm saying is that we need leaders, we need pastors, we need those people who've got us gifted to really see this, so that, because we've seen fellowships, I've seen just in recent years now, certain ones, where their leadership has absolutely seen this. They've grown hungry for it. And they've become what pastors are supposed to be, people who shepherd and who help and equip and encourage people into their callings and giftings. And then that just transforms that whole fellowship. Just the pastor, because now they're all excited. And on the other hand, if the pastor doesn't, then all of them there's a quenching that starts occurring. So that's important. I want leaders to press into this, first of all. And then if people, wherever you're at, that there's no, this is for you. So it depends on the gift, Luke. There's so many gifts to talk about, but I think that in general, walk by faith. In other words, don't be scared of making mistakes along the way. Like, we will make mistakes along the way. Like, there's so many things I had to learn on what's good to do, what's not good to do, but doing it in a humble way. See, if you walk humbly, then the mistakes, you won't fall that hard because you walked humbly. If you walk prideful, if you walk like, I know what I'm doing, when you're really still learning, if if Peter was like, if this was like his first rodeo and he's like, hey, rise up and walk, and he's never even thought of doing this, or he just saw this on a YouTube video and now he's that may not be the best way to approach that. Peter was filled with the Spirit. He was confident because he was trained up by the Messiah. So he was at a place where he could be so bold, and that was beautiful. But as we're growing into something, we're going to be more humble, but bold as well, but humble, and allowing people to know, hey, I'm still learning, but can I pray for you? There's nothing wrong with that. That's great. Do that. And then, when that's healing, for example, then if it's prophecy, well, then a prophet is subject to prophets. So make sure that there's accountability happening. If you have a word that you think is from the Lord, accountability is key. If it's a word of knowledge that you feel like you have for someone, then go in humility and say, hey, I'm still learning to hear the Father's voice. I may be totally off here, totally wrong here, but could this be something that the Father may be showing you? So how we approach and frame things is very important.